Hello, Alejandro.
Hello, how are you, Ludovic?
I'm delighted to have you on the show, so that's perfect for me. Thank you for agreeing to have this conversation with me today. I will try to do a little presentation of your background,
Okay.
and I will try not to say a lot of mistakes. You are a Tibetan yoga and meditation teacher. And you are also a scholar in the field of Tibetan yoga. And you share this teaching through Ligmincha. It's the organization founded by Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoché. And you are the author of 20 articles and 3 books. And you also lead retreats and offer online courses. And I hope I didn't tell mistakes, but for my first question, could you share your journey that led you to discover, to learn, and to teach Tibetan yoga and meditation?
Ooh, that's a long journey. So I'm originally from Argentina. I'm actually having my Argentinian drink. It's mate, I'm sure you know.
Yes.
And I came so really it all started by a need. So what happened was when I was quite young, I had what I call existential attacks, which I would wake up in the evening, in the middle of the night, sweating and feeling, um, yeah, really with this idea, I'm gonna die, and then what? And so from there, I was, yeah, it was quite disturbing, and I didn't know what to do, and I couldn't find answers in the world around me. I was in a very, I mean, religious wise or spiritually wise, I was in a Catholic country, in a Jewish family, and we didn't talk much about death or this fear of death. And I don't remember who or how I got to my hands this wonderful book, Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse.
Mm.
And uh, and it was the life of the Buddha, and I didn't know. And and as I was reading, I think one of the main parts that was really striking to me was the part that says the sufferings of birth, old age, sickness, and death. I was like, wow, this resonates. There were a lot of parts of the book. I had to read it like 8 times to understand more, but that resonated right away. And and it was like, and one of the other parts that of course it said is the path to relieve suffering is meditation. And so I wanted to learn this meditation. And so luckily, a few years later, one of my best friends in school, his uncle meditated. And so my friend Diego introduced me to his uncle, and I learned transcendental meditation, and it was very, very useful. And I kept on practicing. And years later, I went into communications and advertising, and I had an opportunity to come to the United States. And when I came here, I was in Boston, and I was able to both learn Zen meditation. I was also with the Hare Krishnas learning vegetarian cooking. But I also was able to start studying philosophy, and particularly Oriental philosophy. And that kind of resonated in a particular way. And particularly I had this uh, great teacher of religions of the East, Daud Rabar, and uh, and he was so uh, hands-on. He would play the tablas. He was, I'm trying to remember how his journey was, but I think he was born a Hindu, converted to Islam, and then to
Oh.
Christianity. He had so we had a lot of things that resonated. But in general, it was this being open to these different traditions and what each one teaches. And so when I graduated, I went to India. So in 89, I went to India and I thought I would go for just a couple of months, and I stayed 9 months. And during that time, which I kind of call my second gestation period,
Okay.
I um I really met a lot of teachers. Um, with some I resonated with some I didn't. And in the Hindu tradition, particularly with Swami Chinmayananda and also with UG Krishnamurti. But then when I met the Dalai Lama, I was like, wow. And I met that I was walking in Ladakh and the Tibetan monasteries, and they were so kind to me. Um, and I wanted to meet the Dalai Lama, and I went to Dharamsala, where he lives. And when I got to meet him with so many people, but in his first meeting, kind of one to one, again in a what they call a public blessing, it was really transformative. I was speechless, literally speechless. And for those who know me, I'm not usually speechless. And and I was after I met him, I was sitting in a tree crying. It was so touching. And then I was able, actually came back to Argentina and was able to be one of the organizers for his visit to Argentina in
Oh.
92. And then was very fortunate to travel with him to Chile and Venezuela. And that inspired me into saying, I need to learn Tibetan. I need to learn more about the Tibetan tradition. And and then I came back to the United States and started studying Tibetan. And I met the Dalai Lama was doing the Kalachakra, and I
Mm.
met uh, before the Dalai Lama was doing the Kalachakra, five teachers of the main traditions were talking, and particularly Lopon Tenzin Namdak gave a talk, and I was awestruck. And since then, so that was like, this is it. In India, they had told me, you need to dig in many holes to reach the water.
Mm.
And when you reach the water, keep on digging.
Mm.
And that was the beginning of something that was clear to me. That actually had started a year before when I met Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche, and he said, you need to meet Lopon Tenzin Namdak. And after I met Lopon Tenzin Namdak, then I also met Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche the year later, and he brought Lopon. And so when I saw them together, it was like so marvelous, the whole refuge tree.
Mm.
And maybe you know, and some of the audience knows, Lopon just turned 100 years old. And I was there, and Rinpoche was there. And so it's been really touching. I've been with him for 34 years.
Mm.
And over the years, um, I got very interested in the different practices, but particularly I was very touched when I learned for the first time Tsalung Trungkor,
Mm.
what is what we call Tibetan yoga, but really in Tibetan we call Tsalung Trungkor, which kind of in a broad way, it means magical movements of breath and channels.
Mm.
So really working. So part of, for me, sometimes meditation was a little bit from here up, and
Mhm.
now I was learning not only from here down, but connecting. And the breath was a big part of that connection, and learning how holding the breath and using the channels to bring the breath in and out, and particularly to what we call clearing or getzel, clearing the obstacles, and then resting. So for me, that was particularly special, something that I had not seen before in other traditions. And it started a whole journey that included for me getting into the academics and translating text, and as you said, writing my books on it, courses and so forth, and also bringing it into the healthcare system, particularly here in Houston at MD Anderson, which is a large cancer center. So I'll stop there for now.
That's a very complete story, and there's something that strikes me is that Tsalung Trulkor is in your tradition relatively openly shared, which is not the case in some other traditions. I come from a Kagyu tradition where it's really restricted. And one has to have first initiation, empowerments, have practiced a number of times highest yoga tantra before going to consider to practice this kind of teachings. And could you elaborate on this um, openly shared teaching? How come do you share this teaching freely? And is it um, new or has it always been the case?
Yeah, great question. So it has not always been the case. It was also very secret, or very restricted, as you said. Um, so for me, the first opening to this kind of yogas more openly was actually through Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche.
Mm,
Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche would teach from a text called the Nida Kajor Trunkor, or the Trunkor from Sun and Moon, and he would use the term Yantra Yoga.
mm,
And he also taught it openly. And he said, this is a path to enlightenment.
mm,
And for me, learning with him and with one of his students, Fabio Andrico, was very special because as I was saying earlier, this part of feeling that meditation was only kind of up here, this was grounding, this was moving, and also it allowed me to let go things that I got stuck in my body, and that allowed my mind to kind of embody and be more open. And then so that was one part. And then actually it was one of the years that Namkhai Norbu Rinpoche was in Nepal. I want to say 93. And I was there, and then I went to visit Lopun, and he said, stay here at the monastery. And just by chance, this monk had come from the Amdo region of Tibet.
mhm,
Um, and uh, and the Kempo there at that time was Nima Wangyal, and actually who graduated at the same time as Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche as Geshes. And he said, do you want to learn Tibetan yoga? Actually, he called it Trunkor. Just, you know, they didn't use the word Tibetan yoga. And we were just four people, four Westerners.
mhm.
Uh, one person from Italy, Antimo, he passed away now. I was remembering it was his birthday recently. Um, one person from Hong Kong, I'm trying to remember his name. One person, and Sylvain from Switzerland, and me. And so, but this person, very typical Tibetan style, he would go over a text. Actually, I have the text here. At that time, I didn't actually read Tibetan,
Mhm.
but he would use these Tibetan texts. This is from the Changshu Ninju. This is the root text, and this is the commentary by Sharsa Rinpoche. And that's what we learned with, but it was very fast. It was like in 3 mornings. And now that you think of yoga, right? You think of yoga mats and all these props.
Mhm.
Nothing. It was just cement floor. And we were going ba, ba, ba. This text has 40 movements, 39. Um, and it was ta 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 ta. Okay. And but it was fascinating, but it was almost like an overload of information.
Mm.
And luckily, Sylvain had done take very good notes and little drawings, and I
Yes.
photocopied. We all photocopied. I still have them actually. So Sylvain, I haven't seen you in years. So if you're ever seeing this, thank you. Um, and actually, that was very helpful. I continued practicing as much as I could. I was doing my nondro at that time, so I would use this as a way at the end of every practice in the nondro where you rest to do it like they did in the monastery. So the way they did it in the monastery was that we would start with sitting and praying and so forth. And then halfway through the practice, Kempo would stand up and do, or sit, depending on the kind of move, will do 5 movements. And each one, they're very energetic, and they finish with this, up, and then you sit again. And that was very powerful for me, very powerful. Also, methodologically, it was very useful for me to be able to include it within a practice.
Mhm.
The way that I had learned the yantra yoga was separate time for practice. So this was very easy to integrate. So when I came back to Argentina and I was doing my non-draw, I kept on doing it this way of like at the end, when you're staying in meditation and the meditation at one point, you get either drowsy or agitated. And again, you're almost like reset button,
Mm.
right? And it was great. So I came back in 94. I came to see Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoché. I had started already the 7-year program with him. And I told him, Rinpoche, this has been fantastic. And he said, great. Come every morning to my house and we'll go over the text. So this was at 5 in the morning. We would meet in his house in Charlottesville and in the first Ligmincha Center. And yeah, we went over the text. I took, of course, also Sylvan's photocopies, and I told him what I knew. He remembered what he had done. And he said, why don't you teach them in our retreat? So at that time, we were in retreat setting, and I taught them for the first time. And then we came back, and I stayed in Virginia doing my master's. And he said, maybe it's time to teach it in the community.
Mm.
So I offered it in a place called Living Yoga. And it was very interesting because I said, I'm going to give 12 sessions for free. Anyone can come. So 40 people came. It was a small place, so we had to do it in two times. And
Mhm.
then I said, this is free, but you need to commit to be able to be here at least 11 of the 12 times.
Mm.
Then the next time I only had 20 people. And I said, what happened? And I said, you said the C word, commitment. And so, I continued teaching, and then Rinpoche asked me to continue more. And then we did it in different programs and trainings. And actually, I'm having a training again in Ligmincha, April 14th to 17th. Um, and And so slowly it has become open. And then Rinpoche started teaching the Tsalung part.
Mm.
And then with the Tsalung part, it really supports the Trunkor. And for some people, they just do Tsalung and it's perfect. And uh, and others want to continue doing because the Tsalung are all seated and more calmly. You inhale and hold, re-inhale, do a particular movement, and then you exhale. The Trungkor is more you inhale and hold, do a movement, and then
mm,
hop, you know. So, but they're both very useful, different types for different times of the day, different people, different times of one's journey, spiritual journey. And so I've been, in a way, I fell in love with these
mm,
practices. I do them every day. I was just doing them. Um, and then I learned also with His Holiness Lumto Tempanima and Lopon Tempayunrung, Lopontin Lenima in Menri Monastery,
mm,
the Atichung, or another text. And so for me, these have been wonderful. And so my teachers have supported me teaching it openly. In fact, in Rinpoche's retreats, usually in the mornings, we teach it. So it's with his supervision, with his blessings. Um, and um, and then furthermore, when I was doing my dissertation, my PhD at Rice here in Houston, um, well, Norbert Rinpoche had cancer, my
mm,
father had cancer, and I decided to explore this. And I started volunteering at MD Anderson Cancer Center
mm,
here and then one of the persons there, a researcher, Lorenzo Cohen, said, "Do you want to do research on this?"
mm,
And so we got together, and him and Rinpoche and and we did this great studies and things, and that became another part. So became open in that way, open within the tradition, and but yes, always thinking how. So
mm,
it's not just open. There is a methodology of
mm.
teaching or didactic or pedagogy. So to support people in their training.
That's wonderful, and that's really clear. And is it can everyone can practice this kind of or salung or trulkor? Is it open for everyone, or there's prerequisites or um, health issues that can prevent this kind of practice?
Yeah, good question. So in terms of us being open, we're open to anyone who wants to receive it.
Mhm.
And in fact, there's courses online. So we have courses on Salung from Ligmincha Learning. I have courses in Trunkor with Wisdom
Mhm.
Publications, and anyone can take them. Now, do you want to take them? So that's a good question. So what we suggest is there's holdings of the breath. And so, for example, in certain times in one's life, for example, if you're pregnant, if you're a woman going through the period, or those are not good times to, particularly not to learn. If you're already doing them, then what you do is you do the holdings a little less tight and so forth. And also, if you have high blood pressure and not having any way of regulating it,
Mhm.
also you have to be careful. Um, Also, I think what I always do is also be careful. Don't be over enthusiastic. I think a lot, particularly men, I think, and we're like, we want to do it and
Mhm.
hop him. We want to be the macho. I
Mhm.
think, Lopen always says, there's different, we talk about three kinds of breathings. One is more like a basket, one is a vase, one is like a pressure cooker. People want to go straight into the pressure cooker. And Lopon says, no, don't do that. Go slow. We have this saying, kale kale, slowly, slowly. So, jam lung. Jam means soft or gentle. So start gentle and be gentle to yourself also, right? And so, but yes, slowly we're clearing. Rinpoche sometimes uses this metaphor of a bottle that is dirty and you shake it and then you throw it, it cleans a little more, but you do it slowly. It's not that in the first time everything will be out.
Mm.
And so it's a practice. It's part, you bring it into your day. It goes very well with meditation. In fact, my last course with wisdom that is coming out now in May or June is with two yoga teachers, Richard Freeman and Mary Taylor, wonderful teachers, wonderful people. And we're doing this course on how Indian yoga, Tibetan yoga, some of those aspects can be very helpful to meditate. And so, really, what both they and I have learned over the years kind of put it to support meditators. So, so I do think that it's useful. And what we've seen, for example, in people with cancer and so forth, with them, of course, we do mostly just the sitting postures. And so also you regulate, how you do it according to the person that you have in front. And what we find is that people can sleep better, have less intrusive thoughts, have better quality of life, well-being. And one aspect that has been really interesting is their connection to spirituality. And it doesn't mean Buddhism, huh? It to their own spirituality. So we're not trying to convert anyone here, right? So for example, a couple of examples of, I remember these two patients that were Catholic, and what happened after diagnosis, they felt they couldn't connect the same way to
Mm.
God and to their prayers. So, doing practices of helping them clear those obstacles and reconnecting so they can pray back in that same
Mm.
way, regain both that confidence and that connection. So it's really about, it's not about becoming of any different tradition. It's about tools to support your spiritual journey.
Mm. That's really interesting. And you touch about a problem that one can find in meditation practice or even in spirituality, disembodied, maybe spirituality, which is the adverse effects of spiritual practice, like uh, a lot of fear or anxiety, and which some practitioners doesn't are not prepared to. And I have the feeling that these more physical practices prepare the ground to not avoid, but maybe to uh, lessen these adverse effects. Do you think that it's a quality of your teachings?
So I think first is the view, right? I think a lot of times in in general, in kind of in the general world that doesn't know about these practices and the that they know, for example, mindfulness,
Mm.
and they only think many that it's about calming the mind. So there's this one way of thinking that it's about calming the mind and de-stressing, right? And so if you think that that's the way, sometimes it can happen. But also what tends to happen when you calm the mind, that monkey mind that we
Mm.
call, and yes, we de-stress, but now you're open to the things that are in your life to connect in a little bit different, right? You suddenly become a little more open, maybe even more vulnerable to bring that stuff, right? Like what Rinpoche would call the pain identities,
Mm.
right? And I think many many of us, when we started, at least I'll talk about my own journey. So when I started practice, for me, what I meant, the sacred space, whether it was my cushion, my mat, um, it was just for bringing good things, right? It was my connection to the deities, to my teachers. And then through my teachers, both Namkhai Rinpoche, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, it was like you need to integrate with your daily life. You need to bring those things to your practice. If you're not going to bring it to your practice, where are you going to bring it? Well, of course you can bring it to your shrink, right? To your psychiatrist, psychologist. That's also good, very good. But actually, bringing it to the cushion is also good. Sometimes, and I'm sorry for this language, it's like bringing your shit to the cushion, right? It's like, that stuff that is worrying you. It's not like, okay, oh, not in my cushion because here I'm with my deity. So let me take that aside. And no, what we're doing is bring it in. But we have methods of bring it in. We have methods of what we call hosting. We have methods of bringing with awareness. So it's not that you get hooked and merge into it. You're hosting it, you're working with it, practices to dissolve it, to understand it, and then through the three doors of body, breath, or energy, and mind, dealing with it. And so we're working with what Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche would call the pain body, pain speech, pain mind, and how do we do? So these practices I find can be very helpful. And in fact, I would say today, particularly Tsalung, is one of the kind of most popular and within Ligmincha's, we have Rinpoche has 35 centers all over the world, probably more now. Um, I would say everyone in Ligmincha knows something about Salung, even if it's one movement. Many times Rinpoche would say, okay, let's just do the movement to open your heart, right? Then you rest. Then you do. So these movements allow you to do a couple of things. One is to work with whatever stuff is there and then get a little bit tired enough that now you can rest with awareness, but not so tired. Sometimes we get so tired and then we go into the Shavasana posture and
Mm.
then the mantra is something like that went too far, right? So what we want is to maintain awareness. And so I find that these practices are very helpful. You can bring those stuff. You mentioned anxiety, you mentioned fear. Yes, you can bring that in particular ways that can help through the methodology of the practice.
Yeah, it seems that everything is really packed in a bigger picture. And the big picture seems to be, you told about that, the enlightenment or awakening. Or could you say some words about enlightenment? What is it, and can it be attained only with these practices without having to be a Buddhist or to follow a path of devotion, or I don't know?
Yeah. So I'll say what my teachers say.
Mhm.
So we all have the seed of enlightenment, right? We call it the natural state of our mind. In fact, many years ago, I was translating for Lopon from English to Spanish in Mexico, and there were 500 people, right? And Lopon looks and says, you're all enlightened. In our language, you're all Buddhas, right? And he paused, and people looked. And then he says, you just have not realized it, right? So we're all enlightened. I mean, we use the word Buddha. Buddha is not Buddhist, by the way. So Buddha just means enlightened, Sanje in Tibetan. And so we all have this Buddha nature? Do we want to? So in the base, we are all Buddhas. We have to find the right path to become the fruit of Buddhahood. So all these practices, whether it's Salung Trungkor, meditation, yoga, all of these are pathways to that. Now, not everyone wants that. That's not the aim of everyone. So one of the other benefits that I see is what we call kind of a good side effect, is that it's good for the well-being.
Mm.
In fact, I call many times what I do Tibetan yoga well-being, right? Because it's about the Tibetan yoga, and I feel well-being. I feel like the Dalai Lama would say about Tibetan medicine, right? That
Mm.
it's both the spiritual and the physical, including the emotional and the mental, right? And so yeah, I find that these practices can be helpful in both ways. So, and for different people, they enter for different reasons. So some people enter just to calm my mind because I've been, and when I sit and they tell me to meditate, my mind actually, I'm sitting, but my mind is all over the place.
Mm.
So doing some movements allows to get a little tired and okay, now I can be a little more. For some people, it's about health and wellness,
Mm.
and I've seen number of people both with physical issues, emotional issues, mental, resolve through these practices. And then, of course, the spiritual path
Mm.
of towards enlightenment, and this is a great path with that. In fact, in our text, both in the Shangshu Ninju and in the Atri,
Mm.
in our text, they're in the Dzogchen text, and Dzogchen means the great completeness. So for the Burn, as well as in the Nyingma tradition, is the highest teaching, similar in the Kagyu as Mahamudra. And so yes, there are great teachings, and if you're able to be in that state of mind, right? Then all these obstacles are like snowflakes in the ocean. They just dissolve. But for most of us, they're not, right? So they're almost, I call them ninja flakes, We have to, and so what do? We do these practices and, then we can be. In fact, let me see if I have here, if I may share something from my last book. So this is my last book, Tibetan
Okay.
Yoga, Magical Movements of Body, Breath, and Mind. And I dedicated it to Lopen.
Mm.
And so if I may, I'm just it's just very brief if I can read this because
Oh,
I think
please, please.
it relates. So I dedicate this book to my teacher Yongtsin Tenzin Namda Rinpoche. Through him, I entered the burnt teachings in 91, and since then, he has been a constant support in my spiritual path. As I was saying, he's 100 today. When I'm in difficulties, I hear his words telling me, don't forget we're in samsara. And as I visualize him with his wonderful smile, those difficulties and obstacles seem to dissolve
Mm.
like a snowflake in the ocean. And when that is not enough, I practice these magical movements.
Mm.
And so, in a way, as all my teachers, and I remember, from Namkha Norbu Rinpoche on, you know, if if you're able just through the Guru Yoga or just one
Mm.
ah to connect, you don't need anything else, right? But for most of us, that's not the case.
Mm.
And again, coming back to your question, it does not have to be from the Tibetan tradition. It does not have to be from the Buddhist tradition. I think that this state of enlightenment, we all have it. In fact, not just humans, right? We say Semchen, all sentient beings have this capability. So dogs and cats and all animals and all insects and spirits and hungry ghosts and so forth all have this capability.
Mm.
It's just that we have not realized it, as Lopen says.
Yes, you talked about Guru Yoga, which is a very uh, a practice very known in Kagyu schools or in tantric schools more broadly, and in Dzogchen also. Uh, what is Guru Yoga for the people who don't know what it is, and can everyone practice a kind of Guru Yoga, even if one doesn't have any uh, school or initiation?
Yeah. So Guru Yoga literally means union with your guru. But really what it means is that the guru, the deity, you open your heart to connect to that so it illuminates your inner guru, right? It's like the external moon illuminating your moon in the heart if you were like a lake, right? You're reflecting it. And so there's many prayers. There's in each of the Tibetan traditions, there's hundreds of prayers, but they're all about please let me connect to my own true nature as an enlightened being, right? Um, um, but you don't have to do it as a prayer. In fact, I was mentioning the sound of ah.
Mm,
So this is ah, right? And this is this, so the luminous ah in the center, white luminous, surrounded by the rainbow. And really, many times, as actually Namkhai Rinpoche would do too, the Guru Yoga of the three ahs, just saying ah, ah, ah. In a way, allowing, being open to receive the blessings of body, energy, and mind, and awaken, let it vibrate in whichever ways you feel, awakening your luminous natural state of mind.
mm,
Uh, and so Guru Yoga is that, is uh, for me, is that awakening of that state of mind that we all have. It's latent there many times. Uh, we don't notice it. Many times we don't want to notice it. Many times we're told not to notice it. Uh, but we all have it. It's all there. And all it is about awakening. And in fact, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche's book about Salung
mm,
is Awakening Our Sacred Body.
mm,
So, in a way, these practices, as I put in my book too, is these magical movements or awakening movements of body, breath, and mind.
mm. Um, is it that's quite a broader question, but is it possible um, to stay or to abide in this awakened state in this very life uh, without perturbation or without just to being enlightened or in one life? It's a question I ask a lot because between the traditions it varies. It depends. And how about your take on this one?
Yeah. So I think yes. And when I see people like Lopen or His Holiness the Dalai Lama, I think they're great examples of that.
Mm. That's quite a big inspiration, and maybe it's a good way to demonstrate it's in the emblematic figures of these teachings. I have a last question for if someone see this video and wants to start on this on the Tibetan yoga. What can be the first move to have a glimpse and to start to have a sense of what to do to begin on this path?
Yeah. So first, I would say ah,
Mhm,
and then I'm gonna leave you my website, alechaul.com.
mhm,
Um, and um, and I have, as I was mentioning, there's courses online. So for people who want to, and they can do it at their own pace. Um, I teach also both in person, as I'm going to be teaching actually in Virginia in April, but I'm going to be in Europe.
oh,
For
nice.
those who are more closely to you, I'm going to be in Thionville, actually in France, in the north
Yes.
of at the beginning of November with Ligmincha Francois. I'm gonna be probably the 14th and the to the 16th of November in Barcelona, so we'll be
Mhm,
in Spanish. And in August, probably in Warsaw. So I do teach in different places. So that's another way. And many times those are also done online. So for those who
mhm,
cannot come physically, they can be virtually. I always recommend being in person if you can. I think
mhm,
there's something both that happens um, not only because we are in person, but also I feel that one of the things with virtual is the session ends and you say goodbye.
mhm,
When you're in person, the session ends and then you can go for coffee. You can,
mhm.
there's more. So yeah, I also do trips. Actually, I started doing trips. I just did a trip to Nepal with some people.
Oh,
I'm doing a trip to Morocco in November in between those
wow.
two. And so that doing Tibetan yoga in Morocco. But I will be next year doing another trip to Nepal and maybe also planning Tibet and Bhutan. So
Oh,
many possibilities. Of course, Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche's center, Ligmincha .org, and within
mm,
ligmincha.org, you have all the Ligmincha centers, particularly again for those in France, Ligmincha Swiss France, or French Swiss. I don't remember which one is first, but and I'm sure they say it differently.
yes. In France, we certainly say France or in
Yeah.
first.
So anyways, many opportunities. So for people, also some people like books. So I have two books. This is on the Shangshu Ninju. The other one is on the Atri. I don't have it here with me. Uh, but so many different possibilities. The courses you mentioned by Wisdom Publication um, and Ligmincha Learning for the Tzalom. So a lot of possibilities. You can also, you will see in my website, my email. I'm always open to respond to questions.
Mm.
It's also very simple, alechaul@gmail.com. And I'm also in social media, Dr. Ale Chaoul. So yeah, reach out. If I don't respond, it's because I missed it. So reach out again.
That's wonderful. I will put all the information under the video. But thank you very much. It was wonderful and very clear and very motivating. So thank you very much.
And maybe we'll see you in person in Thionville or
Uh,
somewhere there.
yes, I received the newsletter, so I did last time the dream yoga with Tenzin Wangyal Rinpoche, and I
Wonderful.
had the chance to interview him at this
Excellent.
occasion. And because I'm a practitioner of dream yoga, and it's my passion. So
Wonderful. Wonderful.
he is one of the main
Oh,
figure
yeah.
on this
He's
topic.
now
So
having one on, and as he says, now he's actually coming to Houston end of the week, so I'll see him in a few
mm,
days. But he says, now he's saying if you want to sleep 8 hours, you need to be in bed 9.5 hours.
yes, yes,
So
and it was the focus of the last retreat, and since I never sleep late, he was
good,
very a real coach, a sleep coach, and it was
yes,
perfect. So that's that.
wonderful.
I will send you a message, and thank you very much. It was
You're very
perfect.
welcome. Very nice meeting you.
Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.